The word crossover is common to the car industry, generally used to describe a vehicle that blurs the boundaries between two segments. Something like this, a Mazda CX-9. But this is McLaren's interpretation of a crossover, the 570 GT. As the badge indicates, the 570 GT is McLaren's unique attempt at creating a more luxury-focused Grand Touring car. It fuses all the supercar bits it is renowned for, a carbon fibre two-seater tub with a mid-engine twin-turbo V8, with a little more luxury and a little more practicality. It's the third member of the British brand's entry-level Sports Series range, joining the 540C and 570S coupes ahead of the arrival of the 570 Spider convertible later this year. The most notable element of the GT is at the back, where it has a unique side-opening hatchback that exposes a leather-lined parcel shelf, dubbed a touring deck by McLaren, that can accommodate an additional 220 litres worth of luggage. It's also got a full glass roof, which adds to the airiness of the cabin. So how does that translate into the actual real world? Well, usually the McLaren 570, whether it's the S or the C that sits below this car, is full of carbon fibre and it sort of shows off its race car roots. Whereas this thing, it's lathered in this beautiful tan leather. In fact, the only carbon fibre you can see is kind of this stuff around the centre screen and this active panel down here in the middle. Otherwise, there's thicker carpet on the floor, there's a stronger air conditioner, and there's a booming Bowers and Wilkin audio system. And it all adds up to make this car a little bit more luxurious than your average McLaren. The 570 GT does have a few key differences to tame its driving character, including a quieter exhaust system, more road-focused than track-focused Pirelli tyres, conventional steel brakes, and even a noise-cancelling system. And that does mean that this car feels completely docile around town. It is so easy to drive. Simply, your grandma could get in this thing and not be intimidated, which you can't say about all supercars. The steering is delicious. It's got so much feel and it's super responsive, but it doesn't feel like it's darting around and really nervous on the road. Same with the 7-speed dual clutch transmission, probably right up there with Porsche in terms of being the best of its type. It shifts smoothly. You can obviously hear it because the engine is right behind your ears, but it doesn't have any of the low-speed jerkiness. It's a really good gearbox. And the ride, well, you'd have to say, of course, it's a supercar. You do feel every little bump in the road, but not as much as you do in those other hardcore cars. It's got a little bit more compliance, particularly over sharper edge bumps, and there's a little bit more insulation. It doesn't crash through that carbon fibre chassis as much. So, job done in terms of making a hardcore supercar genuinely livable around town. But it is still a supercar at heart, and beating away under your luggage is a 3.8 litre twin-turbo V8 that produces 419 kilowatts of power and 600 newton meters of torque, driving the rear wheels through a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic. That's enough to rocket it from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in just 3.3 seconds, and onto a top speed of 328 kilometers per hour. Drop it down a cog and she gets up and boogies all right. It does have a bit of turbo lag as it sort of builds up boost, but that's a characteristic that McLaren has actually tuned into this 570 series. So, well, it's the same engine as the 650 and even the P1 hypercar. This thing is meant to be a little bit more drivable and a little less powerful than those other ones, and they've done that, but it still gets up and boogies. And you do know it's a mid-engine supercar. This thing feels supremely planted through the bends. It's just divine. The steering, the suspension, everything about it just works so beautifully as a mid-engine car that on a track, I reckon this thing would be unbelievable. Okay, so this thing isn't quite a family-friendly crossover, and nor is it a GT in the true sense of the word. It is still a genuine supercar. It's just a little more practical, a little more luxurious, and a little classier than the rest of the McLaren range.